Thank you for joining this composition study, and I'm really excited to go over the first movie in this series, which is Arrival. Now, I often revisit this sci-fi masterpiece. You know, there's no lasers, there's no aerial battles, you know, there's like one big explosion and it's for a very specific reason, but it's a quiet, you know, contemplative, tension building, slow burn visit from aliens trying to communicate their best intentions for humanity. And if you haven't seen it, I would stop watching this right now and highly recommend that you go check it out because it's all spoilers from here. So, director, Denis Villeneuve and cinematographer Bradford Young, they really chose some compelling imagery that felt good and organic and intentional throughout this film. And I just wanted to see how different composition techniques may have been applied to that in terms of their thinking and with regards to their storytelling. Now, just as a quick sidebar here, I am using an iTunes player and bringing that in on a media plate inside of Unreal, and ultimately applying that as a texture to the cinema camera actor that also has overlaid on top of it my camera composition overlays. So that's how we're going to go about doing this analysis. So let's go ahead and look at the first frame to evaluate here. I'm going to go back to 6 minutes and 7 seconds here. Whoop. Right about here. This is actually perfect here. So just what was interesting about this was just the shape, the curves, the open space over here on the left side of the screen just allowed the image to breathe. It just was an interesting shot that grabbed my attention. And cinematographers will often use different shapes. They'll use symmetrical shapes. They'll use curves to basically maintain interest in what it is that we're looking at. And then if I was actually to try to analyze this with my tool here, if I come here and I turn this on, look, I already have a spiral here selected here. Let me hit refresh on this. Let me actually change the opacity of this because it's a little bright here. And if I was to rotate this 180 degrees, you're going to see this already starting to line up with the overall shape in this image. And again, nothing has to land perfectly. These are merely suggestions on what could possibly work and maintain visual interest for your viewers. So if I was just to come here and scale this down a little bit on the X and scale this here on the Y, and if I was to offset this, you can kind of see how this curve may have been used, starting with the teacher, with the Luis's character here, wrapping around the TV here, and then landing right on the curves of this furniture here. So again, this was just an interesting shot. It grabbed my attention. Shapes, again, are a great way of grabbing attention, and cinematographers use them all the time. Okay, so now the second frame, it's really the second, third, and fourth frame that I wanted to look at. They're actually a series of frames in one long shot, and there was really interesting use of triangles. Actually, I think we could and we'll move right into this. So I'm gonna pause in one moment here, and you'll see what I'm saying. If I hit pause right there, there's already a lot of angles being used here. There's a triangle here, going into the lower right-hand corner. There's a triangle that's also enveloping the bottom of the screen here. And then you have this triangle here that's forming behind the security guard here. And if I actually go ahead and let's make sure that everything is default here, I want to click on the dynamic symmetry button here and turn this on. You can almost see right off the bat with this root 5 rectangle that's selected for this aspect ratio, you can see here these diagonals and these lines line up perfectly with the lines on the sidewalk. I just thought that was just really interesting that right off the bat here, I've even scooched this over a little bit here, you can just kind of see it almost lands perfectly. And then, so let's continue into the shot here. Let's go ahead and hit play. The next frame was really right here too. It's kind of like this whole, there's a whole triangle here. Again, following the theme of a triangle here, there's a bit of a diamond in the middle here. If I was to offset this, you could start to see how that falls along the shape of this diamond here in the middle. And of course I could scale this in the X direction here, and then bring this back along this direction here to try to align it and so forth. Just interesting symmetrical shapes that are, I think, kind of like almost subconsciously keeping me interested in watching the shot to see where now these people are going. And I think Bradford Young did a really great job of starting off with visual interest, maintaining visual interest in the middle of the shot. And then you'll see, if I go ahead and do the rest of the shot here, let me turn off this overlay and I hit play here. You now see all of these people and they're leading lines towards this section over here. Let me hit pause right there. This section of the screen over here. So we have all these people who are creating leading lines to this point of interest over here. Like, where are these people going? And then if I go ahead and I grab, say, center raise here, let's refresh this. Let's turn that on. Let me turn this down. Let's go to 0.25, just so you can kind of get an idea here. We're going to scale this over on this side here. I'm going to scale this, I think, a little bit more on the Y. And then I'm just going to offset this in the Y direction here. And you can kind of see it. You can kind of see how all of these people are facing in this direction. And they're all coming to this point over here in the screen and in the image. And I just think that's really interesting. It's a great way to start a shot and end a shot where you're like, what's happening? What's going on? You're watching it. And I think that Bradford Young and Denis Villeneuve were using all of these different techniques and combining them to get us to stay engaged in the story. Now, the next shot is one of my favorite shots. Let me actually get to that one here. That is at 9:39 here. So let's drag this here. 9:39, right here. Perfect. Let me go ahead and turn this off. I mean, just looking at this image by itself, it's just what they chose to do with contrast, what they chose to do with diagonal lines, what they chose to do with triangles. You can see it all in here. You see this line going alongside the back of Louise here, and then it lands and follows with her leg here, creates this shadow. You have this contrast, this dark portion of the image here. You have this light portion of the image here. It's balanced against her shirt here, which is kind of has some affinity towards the colors that are over here, that are part of this pillow, that are part of the bedding here. Like, and you see all of these different triangles, all of these different angles here along her leg and along her back here. It's just an interesting shot. And again, here, you know, if you turn on, let me put on dynamic symmetry again, and I just reset all of this, and let's just turn it on here. You can see right off the bat here, all of these different angles, things are falling very nicely in line with the root 5 rectangle. Again, I always like to emphasize this is not a rule. If it works out, it's nice. It's a nice place to start, but you can modify it, you can change it, you can adjust it, you can shift, you can do whatever you want. But I just found it interesting that just in this frame itself, and I can go ahead and shift this over here. Let's shift this to the left a little bit here. You can see right here, like right alongside, you have her shoulder that's hitting this intersection here. You have this diagonal that's falling alongside her back, comes down to where the pillow is. You can see this triangle that's this right inside of this overlay here as well. It's just really interesting. And we're going to move on past this one, but this is one of my favorite shots in terms of the way that they laid it out. Very, very engaging. Now, this next shot is a great way of doing natural framing. Let's get to that one here. That's going to be at 11:59, right about here. I'm going to let that play just a little bit more there. 11:59. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off here. Let's again reset what we have going on here. And this was nearly perfect. You can see right here, and I'm not scaling this. This is the phi grid, also known as the golden ratio. I'm not scaling anything here. I'm not stretching or squashing it. It just lands perfectly to create this natural frame around Luis's face. And you have this backlit, a portion of it is backlit from the window itself here, and the other portion of it is backlit from the illumination of the wall that's behind here, and it's cut off by the edge of the wall here to create the shadow. I just thought this was a great natural frame. And again, I stopped on this shot. I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to keep watching. I'm engaged. I'm pulling in. And then when you go in and do the analysis, you can see that, oh, they used a 5 grid on top of that. That's just, it says something about the use of these sort of compositional guides. Now I have just a couple of more that I wanted to go over for this part 1 of this analysis for Arrival. Let's take a look at number 7 here. This one is at 25 minutes and 17 seconds. We're going to drag this here, 17. And I have a lot of frames. I think I have about 32 different frames that I chose for this study. Let me drag this back just a little bit. It was 25. Let me hit play here. And you're going to see here, this one is, again, the use of a leading line right here, and it kind of like, it kind of folds into the leading line and then it kind of folds out, but it's long enough that it's got my attention, right? That's the thing about, video versus a still image, right? These techniques are being used fluidly throughout a shot, and this is, I think, one of those examples here. Here, if I actually go ahead and let me turn this off, and I'm actually going to select just this single line here, and we're going to rotate it. And you can kind of see here, if I rotate this, you have this line, and maybe even if I offset it in the Y direction here, right? You have this line that's just cutting through from the main character's head here all the way down this line of other subjects that are here in this image here. And again, it's just balanced. It's just interesting. It's the symmetry of it. It just feels good, and it's something that grabbed my attention. And as cinematographers, I mean, that's something we're constantly trying to do, is keep and grab the attention of our viewers, and we use all these different techniques to do that. The last frame that I wanted to take a quick look at is a good old use of what is it here? I think rule of thirds. It's a great use of rule of thirds. I'm gonna go to that position in the film, and I think that's at 3424. This is around the same place as the image. They held the shot for a decent amount of time, and then they did a slow push in. And if I go ahead and take this off here, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and put in rule of thirds here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh all of this so that we can see it. And I'm going to turn that on. You can see right here that this lands perfectly on this third right here. This goes right through her eyes here. This also goes right through her head here. It's just, again, a tried and true way of framing an image rather than putting something just dead center, unless that's intentional for symmetrical reasons and for storytelling purposes. Oftentimes, putting things on either the left third or the right third, or also using the thirds along the overall height of the image, is a great way to keep the shot interesting. I use this all the time in photography work that I'm doing, but I'm also starting to use some of these other compositional techniques as well to keep the work interesting, to keep the storytelling interesting. So that's it for now for part 1. I do have many other frames for us to take a look at, and I'm looking forward to sharing part 2 with you very shortly. In the meantime, feel free to download the camera composition overlays tool and to work on your own analysis. This can be a lot of fun. It's a great way to learn about what some of your favorite cinematographers and directors may have been thinking when they were trying to storytell to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.